At the moment, it's the two of us who are early.
Okay. I haven't run Zoom on my computer before. We usually use Microsoft Teams at work, so I'm going to try and see if I can get my video working properly.
Okay. It appears to be working.
There, that looks good.
Good. Hi, Frank.
Dave Sipka, I remember that name.
Hey, how are you?
Good enough.
It has been a long time.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. I was trying to get a hold of Dennis Maui. I don't know if he's on the mailing list or not. I was trying to get a hold of him. I don't have his phone number anymore. So.
Who? Say that again.
Dennis Maui. He was a year ahead of me at Joe's.
Yeah. Seems like I heard something about him lately, but somebody who, maybe it was Jim Blanchard who ran into him or connected with him. But yeah.
We spent a lot of time together. He lives a couple miles from with all of his brothers. But but then he wound up redoing his basement, and then by the time the basement was cleared, then COVID started up. So so it's been a while since I've seen him.
Well, Paul, you probably beat me to the start again.
That's right.
My clock showed 6:28.
6:28. Well, it's actually 6:59 in Michigan.
Okay, well, my whole goal in life is to beat Paul into as first one in on these. I shoot for very low goals. So we'll see. I've heard from a couple of guys who said they're going to be here, but I see Frank Unger is entering. There's Frank. I've set this up now so that whoever logs on first starts the meeting, and the others can just join as we can. And here comes Norb.
Hi.
Hello.
I'll be there with you in a moment.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yep, we can see you.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm ready.
Okay, we can see you and we can hear you.
All right. Well, I'm on mute. I use I press the space bar when I want to talk.
Oh, okay. Good idea.
That works on the computer. One reason I joined tonight is I want to talk about, I have some experience on getting a reunion, getting out notices about the reunion.
Right.
And so I hope we can get to that fairly soon. I don't want to be on more than an hour.
Right. Yeah. That's first on our agenda tonight.
Oh, good. Has a place been picked yet, or should I just wait and find out?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Has the place been established where we're going to meet?
Not quite yet. We have to finalize some suggestions about. I think it was Dave Sipka that had some contacts with a lot of good contacts with the diocesan center.
Okay, good.
And so we'll see how, when he signs on. Now, I missed the introduction. I see is it Terry Latch?
Lack.
Lack.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Name that I didn't remember. We'll go through in a few minutes, just introduce each one so that we are more familiar with who you are, and had some really interesting news a few minutes ago from Jim Blanchard. He sent me along some copies of the recorder from the mid-1950s that I'm going to post on the website very shortly. And you talk about names out of the past. There's a lot of names in there that we recognize that really haven't gotten a whole lot of we don't see them very often in other things. And the recorders are just incredible because they paint us a nicer picture of what was going on at the seminary. So I can't wait to find more copies of that. And if any of you guys, well, we'll get to that very shortly.
Well, just so you know, the archives at the Chancery has them all.
Yeah, that's it'll be interesting to see if we can get good, clean copies of those. We'll talk to Jim Blanchard about that.
Yeah. That's what my wife and I went over there and looked at a lot of them. In fact, we went through every issue from the beginning. I'm pretty sure. Now the 50s, of course, that's when I went in 56. But I wasn't in the recorder very often. I was kind of, I don't know, behind the scenes kind of guy.
Right. So behind the scenes that there's no trace of you anywhere.
Yeah. No, there's definitely trace. I'm in the graduation picture.
Right. I see Jim Blanchard has joined the session, and we'll wait just a couple minutes for some other people to sign in, and then we can, rather than repeat everything.
Yeah, okay. Right.
And I see Bill Gebhard has joined us.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, Frank Fallon. There's a name out of, was that the class of 61?
Yeah, it sure was. Hi, Frank.
I think he walked away from his computer right now. And Al Womhoff is with us. Dick Galant. Let's see who else has joined. I'm hoping everybody can see. I show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13 people so far.
That's what I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Jerry Willing, class of 61. Hey, Jerry, you were class of 61, weren't you?
I think so. I have pandemic brain fog. I'm having trouble remembering.
I remember you, when you were introducing yourself a few sessions ago, said you were the one that they decided that weren't priestly material in the 11th year or the 12th year of your...
Right, 11th year.
Right.
Yeah, I was pursuing ideas by Teilhard de Chardin, and they accused me of pursuing ideas beyond my intellectual abilities. And
yeah, well, you're in
Weren't
good
you
company.
also reading the National Catholic Reporter?
Yes, I had an NCR mentality. I was questioning authority.
Well, you're in good company there, because they said the same thing to Father Solanus.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Right. All right. We've got now 14 guys in here, so why don't we get things going just like we've done in the past. We'll start off alphabetically, and I'll need Pete Garthe's help in keeping me on the alphabetic track. We'll start off with just a very brief introduction of who you are, where you're living now, your class at the seminary or the years that you attended, and if you have anything that you want to bring up today, that's the time to kind of give us a heads up about some other things that we will want to discuss. I think primary or number one on our list is going to be where we are with the reunion. So let's start with Paul Banner.
Paul Banner, I graduated in '66, live in Kalamazoo.
Okay, Jim Blanchard's next on my list.
I attended St. Joe's 1967 through 1971, then was at Christopher House for 2 years, and then 1 year down at St. Mary's Seminary in Houston, and currently live in Grand Rapids area.
Okay, and then let's see. I think Norb Bufka is next on our list.
Okay, I was in the class of 61. I live in Midland, and I have some ideas about communication for the reunion.
Okay, Tom Dalton.
I attended 59 and 60, so that would make me class of 65. So I see two of my classmates here, Dick and Frank.
And let's see, next I got Dick Galant. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was a graduation class of 65, one of three at the time. Delighted to see Bill Gebhard. I missed you the last couple times, so I'm glad everything's going well for you. And to the others, I wish well, and on with the show.
Okay, Pete, you messed me up on keeping track of alphabetical order. I skipped over Frank Fallon.
Right.
Well, I snuck in because I haven't been here before, and I was happy to remain in the corner, the proverbial fly on the wall, just listen to the discussion. But in the spirit of at least telling you where I am, I graduated from St. Joe's in '61, did 1 more year at Catholic University as a seminarian, and then left. And some years ago, 2014, I finally retired. My wife had passed away just before that. More recently, on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, I met my current wife, and we share living in Minneapolis and in Maine. She has a house in Maine, and I have one in Minneapolis, and so we go back and forth. And just to confuse things a little more, she has 4 grandchildren in Alaska, and I have a whole lot of family and friends in Michigan. So we live in the northern tier, would be one way to say it.
One thing I remember about you, Frank, is that you were on College Bowl, weren't you?
Oh, yeah, but we didn't win.
Yeah, I remember the question that those of us who were watching knew the answer to it, but none of the other panelists there. And it was, I think it was called the Alpha Privativum.
Alpha
Privativa.
Oh, it was
right.
It was the Alpha Privative, yes.
Yeah.
It was the other side's turn to answer, and they didn't answer.
Well, that Greek and Latin finally paid off.
Well, it didn't pay off, but anyway, I have not used it since then.
I always remember that because it comes up in crossword puzzles.
Okay.
And every time I see that in a crossword puzzle, I think, Frank Fallon. Okay, on to Pete Garthe.
Yeah, I graduated in '66 with a bunch of you guys, and I live in Byron Center.
All right, over to Bill Gebhard.
I also was class of '66. I'm living in Battle Creek right now. I would like to make one comment, Bill, on that last picture you sent out about the class picture for class of '67. I know it says class of '67 on it, but that was not the class of '67. Unless it was the high school class of '67.
Okay, yeah, I wondered about that myself. I think
I'm almost positive it is the high school class of 67 because my brother is in it, and that would have been his class, and he was class of 69 when he left St. Joe's. So
yeah, I'll make a note of that when we're updating things in there.
That makes sense because Christopher started in 68. And so St. Joe's was high school only after that. So there would have been no class of 69 according to the way we count. So I agree with you.
Roman numerals. Okay, next I have, let's see, I don't see Dave Hooper here yet. And down there I see LaFave.
Yeah.
Want to introduce yourself?
Dennis LaFave.
Oh, okay.
In the 50s.
In the 50s?
Yeah, in class with Frank and Mike Whalen.
Norb and Jerry.
And Norb, yeah.
Okay, so, all right. That would have been the class of 61, right? Were you part of the graduating class?
No, I didn't make it that far.
Oh, okay.
I got very sick. I got very sick there in 657. I was the first one to get the flu that year. And then when I came back from the hospital, everybody had it.
I might mention that Denny was part of the St. Thomas sub-caucus of the class of 61. Mike Whalen and Denny LaFave and I all went to St. Thomas grade school in Grand Rapids and went to the seminary at the same time.
I can say that Frank Fallon's sister, I'm also from St. Thomas, and I idolized all you guys, but his sister went all the way through first to 8th grade at St. Thomas, Frank's sister. So remember that. Remember where you lived and everything, across from Wilcox Park on the corner?
Oh, I remember absolutely where I lived, Dick, yes. Which of my sisters were you in class with?
Joanne.
Joanne, oh, sure, okay. Yep.
Okay, over to Frank Marfia.
Hello, I'm from that big group of class of 66. I volunteered with Jim Hannock, and we got sent to Assumption Seminary in San Antonio, Texas, where I got my degree in philosophy, and then I left the seminary. And I'm currently retired from the federal government, and I'm at my summer home in northern Wisconsin right now. Although most of the year I live in Chicago. That's it.
By the way, one of the interesting things about one of the issues of the recorder was a little profile of Father Leo when he joined the seminary, and he was one of those that went to San Antonio for at least a year, maybe 2 years. So we're finding out more about. There were more contacts down there in San Antonio than we knew about.
That I was led to believe, yeah. Good to know.
Father Leo whom?
Waslaniak?
Waslaniak. Yeah. Okay, I kind of thought so. He's a distant cousin of mine.
It was Cisco. He was Pancho in the seminary. His nickname, Pancho.
Oh my God.
Bill, did you skip somebody?
I don't know. Did I? Who did I miss?
Okay.
Yeah, possibly me. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a first timer here. So Terry Lack attended high school from 70 through 74 and spent 1 semester at Christopher House. I now live in near Sterling Heights in Clinton Township, not to be confused with Clinton, the city.
Okay, thanks for keeping me on track. Mike Murphy had said he was hoping to be here, but he just sent me a message saying he wasn't able to make it. And Stash Popovich said he hopes to join us a little bit later. Okay. alphabetically, if I'm right now, we're on to Frank Unger.
Yes, I was part of the class of 65.
I see heads shaking.
All right.
Okay, Frank, you go ahead as long as you start it, and then we'll go back to Dave Sipka.
Okay.
I wish this system was alphabetically, you could just arrange everybody alphabetically, but you can't do that. Okay, go on, Frank.
All right. I'm Frank Unger. I live in Vicksburg, which is a little town just south of Kalamazoo, Michigan. I grabbed part of the class of 65 along with Dick Galant, and he and I basically were the last of the entire class of 65 to leave at the end of our 8th year. That's it.
Right. Over back to Dave Sipka.
Well, I'm Dave Sipka. I attended St. Joe's from 1966 through 70, graduated from high school in 70, attended 2 years at Aquinas, and then went on to study at the University of Waterloo in Kitchener, Ontario. There were a handful of us from the Grand Rapids area there. Currently, I live in Montague, and I have the information that I think we're looking for the party. You want to jump into that?
Hang on, we got we've left out a couple here yet. Let's see, we got. I think I'm on to Al Womhoff. Am I right alphabetically? I don't hear anybody objecting, so
okay.
Go to.
Okay, I'll go ahead then.
Okay.
I was part of the class of 66 also. Went on to St. Mary's in Baltimore, the oldest Catholic seminary in the United States, as many of you did, quite a few of you anyway. And from there went to St. John's Provincial Seminary there in Plymouth, Michigan. Tried to do 4 years of theology, didn't quite make it, dropped out that third year. And then continued in construction and retired in 2011 and came back to Michigan last month. Been here just less than a month in the very southwest corner, 2 blocks from Indiana and less than a mile from Lake Michigan. And glad to be back. Haven't been here in residence since 1978. And it's been a long time, the last 30 years in one home in Bettendorf, Iowa. And out of the last 39 years, I spent 37 of them in that area, the Quad Cities.
Al, when I was looking back through some of those 1950s issue of the Recorder, I thought I saw the name Gerald Womhoff.
Yes, that's a cousin of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went on to be a professor up in the Milwaukee area and retired up there. There's a lot of Womhoffs up there, and most of them are not Womhoffs anymore because women seem to be more the name of the game with the children there. All of the Womhoffs. Of course, there were only 78 grandchildren that my grandmother had on the Womhoff side, but that's another story.
All right. Next up is Jerry Willing.
Yes, my name's Jerry Willing. I'm currently living in Saginaw, Michigan, and I was in the class of 61 with Norb, Bufka, and Frank Fallon, and went to St. Paul, Minnesota for 2 years of philosophy, then 3 years of theology at St. John's in Plymouth prior to my departure from there. And then I began working as child welfare worker in Saginaw, got a scholarship, attended University of Michigan, got a master's in clinical social work, and then worked in Detroit. We were organized and opened up a crisis center right next to Tiger Stadium. Over a 3-year period, developed $1 million grant and developed a comprehensive community mental health center. And after that, I left and I got a teaching job at Michigan State University in the School of Social Work, where I taught for 5 years. and then met this woman who would not move to Detroit where I was living. And so I moved to Saginaw and married her. We had a 30-year marriage. She was a nurse, and really had a happy marriage. And I became after the teaching, primarily specializing in psychotherapy and then eventually specializing in marital therapy, and trained with Harville and Helen Hendricks in imago relationship therapy. I currently serve on the board of directors here in Michigan on that board, but it's a highly successful. Traditional marital counseling has a 25% success rate. Imago relationship therapy has a 75% success rate, so I love my work. And then I had a really great marriage with my wife, but sadly she was older than I and then developed dementia. So I was her caregiver for 10 years and she passed away about 6 years ago. So I'm currently going through a stage of grief and gratitude, happy to be alive and so grateful for the life I've been able to live, and happy to be here with all of you.
Great. And then in the last row of every room in the school, the last row was made up of, let's see, Al was sitting next to me, and I think there was somebody named Bill Zink at one point in our class. We were the main constituents of the last row, except in a couple of cases where they decided to put us all in the front row and reverse things alphabetically. So, class of 1966, I'm currently living in West Bloomfield, and I'm sort of, I just wanted to say that some other folks that we've been in touch with, Jim Lozier, remember Jim from our class of 66? He was the one that really hosted the first of these Zoom meetings. Unfortunately, it was one of those, I think he had a free account, so we weren't able to record it at that time. And I think the same thing happened with the second meeting that he hosted. And then I actually started paying for the account, and along with that comes the ability to record. So I record the sessions and then put them up on YouTube to share with other people who haven't had a chance to participate for one reason or another. A couple of other things. Let's see, Jim Blanchard sent along in the last couple of days some more class pictures from, I think it was the mid-1950s. Is that right, Jim?
I believe that it was like 1956 to 1959.
Right, right.
And we may have had those photos previously, but I think that these are a little better quality than.
Right, right. Slowly but surely, we're filling in some of the blanks. So there's still a few that we haven't been able to locate, aside from those that Jim was able to take iPhone photos down at the archives. So hopefully, as time goes by, we'll grab some more of those while people are still around to grab them from. Okay, let's. I'll turn it over really to the reunion committee, who, by my calculations, included Dave Sipka, Pete Garthe. Let's see who else was in there. Frank Marfia and Bill Gebhard. Have I missed anybody? That was
Dalton.
Oh, Dalton. Right. I see the hand waving down. I think he got drafted into that just because he lived so well.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention when we were doing introductions is I'm the guy that lives about a 10-minute walk away and have worked for the diocese in some capacity for like 25 years.
Right. And he also sent along some business cards from the people he contacted on that recent open house that he was able to get into the grounds. I think everybody who was on the committee, I think I got copies of those business cards over to you guys. Does that sound familiar to everybody?
Yeah, Bill, I saw the email, but I didn't see the cards on them.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. All right. How about the other guys on the committee? Did you get those business cards?
I saw the email, and I saw pictures of the old seminary. That was included in the email. Up-to-date pictures, weren't they, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember the business cards, though.
Okay. I will try to do it right this time. Anyway, but it had some important contact information for the people at the Samaritan House or Samaritas, right there in Grand Rapids, so that if we want to pursue trying to get into some kind of visit to the old seminary, those are the people that Tom had run into. So with that, let's see. Which of you guys is considered the chairman?
Dave Sipka.
No, nobody. You know, I said I would do some of the groundwork to check into Cathedral Square.
Can I ask a question first? Can I ask a question first before we go too far into the gathering? Are we ruling out the picnic outdoor? I'm in favor of ruling it out, but I don't want to speak for everybody. The original plan was for an outdoor picnic at a place that was fairly close to the seminary grounds, but it sounds like we've moved away from that idea. Is that correct?
Yes, we have.
Okay. I'm in favor of this, what we're currently moving toward, which is an in-house location. We haven't decided exactly the location or the date, but that's something maybe we can decide today.
I'll tell you one thing.
Okay.
Be aware, this new virus is coming back in storms, and there's 4 more variants coming in from Europe that make our plans with tongue in cheek, because we're not done with this thing yet, and it's already in 50 states. And I was talking to my wife's an RN, and she was talking to her friends that say they're not advertising it, but the hospitals are starting to fill back up again. So I'll make all your plans contingent.
Yeah, everything that I've heard about the new variants that are coming in is the people that are getting sick or the people that haven't been vaccinated. So
yes, 90% of the people that are getting it have not been vaccinated.
Well, actually, the number that's been published is 95%. You know, we're not vaccinated. So, I mean, it's travel at your own risk, basically, if you've not been vaccinated.
You know, since Frank Marfia was the guy who really got us going on this reunion this year, I'm going to sort of appoint you interim chairman.
Okay.
So why don't you take it from here and let us know who's been up to what and where we stand.
The only drawback by me being the interim is that I'm in Chicago for the most time and nowhere near Grand Rapids, which is where we're going to have this event. But I'll take on that responsibility if you appoint me or ask me to, Bill.
All in favor?
Hi. Go for it.
I'd like to pass the baton on to Dave. Dave Sipka, why don't you give us your report?
Well, what I was trying to do was to check into Cathedral Square, and a couple of reasons for that. One is that the chapel windows from the seminary are now in Cathedral Square. And then also the archives are located there. So it would be a couple of natural things. There's also ample space for parking and all of that as well. So I spoke with Chris Castano. Chris is the director of the facilities at Cathedral Square. I happen to have one of her kids in school when I was principal of St. John Vianney. And so she remembers me luckily fondly. And so we had a great conversation We have kept in touch over the years, so that helped as well. I explained to Chris what we were hoping to do, and she had a couple of suggestions for us. One is we looked at dates, and we had come up with a couple of possible dates. I know that earlier we had talked about September 9th, and then that sort of morphed into maybe another day. We wanted to stay away from Fridays. We were looking at Thursdays. So we had September 15th and September 23rd as possible days. At the time, those dates were open. She then suggested that there was a cost associated with basically renting the rooms, and it was about $300 for an afternoon. She said, however, it sounds like you have a number of priests involved. All you have to do is ask one of those priests, and I would suggest Father Tom Page, since he is vicar of the priests here in the Diocese of Grand Rapids, that he put in a request. And then the chief financial officer would take a look at that and then waive any fees for use of the facilities. So I got in touch with Tom and asked him if he would do that. He asked me to write a letter. I wrote it. He sent it in. By then, the September 15th was taken. So that left us with September 23rd, a Thursday. We're looking at anywhere from noon till 4 o'clock in that time frame. That would allow folks who were traveling to possibly get back home if they lived anywhere in the state of Michigan. We also checked out Cathedral Square has 6 caterers that they have contracted with. And Chris Castano had said that we could have, we could select any of those caterers. I sort of guessed at what we might be looking at, a sort of a light lunch, nothing really heavy, but sandwiches, some side dishes and drinks and so on. And she said, yeah, that she thought that the caterers that were available would be able to do that easily and probably would not cost much. We talked about somewhere in the $10 to $15 per person range. The room that we would be looking at would be a room that would house at least 70, because we really don't know how many people are coming at this point. So we tried to get a substantial room. So at this point, we just need to get back to her as soon as possible to nail that date down. And if we could do that tonight, I could give her a call tomorrow and we'll go from there.
Dave, is that the big room at Cathedral Square?
Yeah, I think it is, Jim. My guess is, as I described this to her, you know, she realized that we would want some room to move around in, room for tables and chairs, room for exhibits from the archives.
The archives are right across the hall from there.
That's great.
And Angela said that she would be willing to try to get some things out for us. She'd like some indication of what people would be interested in to make available.
Okay.
It sounds like Chris was probably talking about the large main room, which can be divided. And for 70 people, that would be like half of the room. It would be room A. And it's got some stained glass windows in that room. And I know that because Chris was my replacement. So I was the director of the center prior to Chris being there.
Well, shoot, you could have got us a discount then.
Well, now that I'm not sure.
You'd have to get ordained.
I'd like to share a few comments. I was the one who organized the reunion in 2018, and I'd like to share my experience and ideas with anybody who's going to be in charge of this one. Number one, the caterer at that banquet, and I think you would call it that because it was not a lunch kind of meal. He only charged $25. And we added $5 to that, $30, and he had all the drinks we wanted. We didn't have a cash bar. Those were included for $30 a person. I like the idea of being at the Chancery because of the archives, and it'd be very easy to move some things there to reflect why we're there, what we're all about. Plus the chapel stained glass windows, I think that's a real plus for being there. But the reason I mentioned the caterer at the last reunion is because he is, I'm sure he would be available. Well, no, I don't know that. But he may very well be available for working at the Chancery. Father Dennis Morrow was a pastor then, and of course he's since passed away. But I kind of got the impression that he was a recognized caterer because he did not charge us rent for the facility at St. Peter and Paul either, for the same reason that you just mentioned, not paying rent at the diocese.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to share is communication and promoting the event. We had 125 people there, by the way. And the part of the reason, and we started from scratch, okay? Because we didn't know more than maybe 50 or 70 people to contact. Maybe it was more than that. But Dennis Morrow gave me a great suggestion to send a notice of the meeting, of the reunion, to the priest communication officer, whatever, that's not his title, at every diocese. They send out a priest newsletter to every priest weekly or bi-weekly. And in that first of all, we wanted to contact the priest, but we also asked them to put their notice in their parish bulletin. And we did that only in Michigan. And as I recall, I wasn't able to get anything done in Detroit. But the other dioceses were very cooperative, very helpful. Lansing, the guy responded to me, he says, I'll have it in this week. I mean, he was very excited about it. So those are just a couple of experience that I had. And I just wanted you to be aware of those, and I'll be happy to share with you what I did, the wording and everything that I did if you want to use those. And that's all I have for right now.
Norb, do you think 70 is on the low end and maybe we should raise that number up to, say, 100 or 120?
Well, I'm kind of thinking that because of that last experience. And those of you who were there was considerable interest in having another reunion, which we were going to have last year. At least that's what I was thinking of until the pandemic came along. Then we canceled it. So I think if you get the word out, if we can get the word out to a lot of people and attract some new people, it may very well be more than 70.
Okay, good.
Norb, I had a question about how the registrations were handled. I kind of recall that we made checks out to St. Peter and Paul's Church, and then Dennis just held the money for us, and then somehow it got paid back to him or to the caterers. How was that all handled?
Okay, great question. And I'm smiling a little bit because it's a little vague in my mind what happened, but I do know this. People sent checks to me in my name, and I kept track of the registrations. And then after I got a bunch, I sent the names and a check to St. Peter and Paul. Made the check out to St. Peter and Paul. And then it gets a little tricky, obviously, because it's well, what gets tricky about it? Dennis told me, he says, no matter when you put the cutoff on registration, you'll have more people come. He said there'll be 20 more that'll come that weren't registered, and he was right. So be prepared for that as well. And then at the door, we had the list printed up of those who had been registered, so we didn't charge them again, and then added names that people that were, had not been registered, and collected money and gave it to Father Dennis, and he paid the caterer from St. Peter and Paul.
So you had people who were essentially walk-ins that you hadn't heard from before?
That's correct. That's correct. And some people, there were a couple, I think, that emailed me and said they were coming, but they hadn't paid yet. And I said, well, at that point, it made more sense to wait and pay at the door, because by the time I got the check in the mail, it'd be over. Are you there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The screen went crazy. Okay, I see you now.
Norb, do you have the list of everyone that did attend? That would be an immediate mail out, I would think, for an invite, since they were at the last one.
I'm sure I do. I seldom destroy anything. So I'm sure I do. It was, I'm sure it was also a list that I sent to Bill, but yeah, I can, I'll retrieve that and send it. Who should I send it to Bill? And then he can pass it on, or do you want?
Probably to Bill. I would say suggest we send it to Bill Yagerlener.
Yeah, that way he can, he can coordinate all this. Yeah.
But have we decided, we've already, I'm pretty sure, decided that spouses are welcome, significant others are welcome at this event.
I would say so.
So just on the early numbers, Bill, you were keeping tab of people who said they wanted to come, weren't you? Weren't we filling out some kind of form?
Oh, right. Yes, that was that initial survey when we were trying to get a sense of who might go to the picnic thing.
How many had we gotten to? About 40?
I think we were just kind of guessing at that point. I think we only heard from maybe 10 or 12 or something like that. But then they said, a couple said spouses. And then when we brought that up at one of the Zoom meetings, a lot of people on that Zoom session said, I didn't fill it out, but I'll be there. And so I think at that point, we had guessed roughly that we'd have about 40 or so attending. So I still have the information from who sent in and replied to that first little survey. And certainly they're all on the grand database or email list that I've been putting together.
That's on the website, I believe, right, Bill? Those names are on the website. St. Joe Memories. Somewhere. The roster actually doesn't appear on the website. Oh, okay.
The people, those of you who for quite a few months, I've been sending out all of the notices to the whole group, and those email addresses appear in the sent to category. With the exception of a couple of people that I still haven't nailed down some names from, I can't remember. Let me just say somebody, and I guess go back through some of the notes in there and say they were from, I think it was one of the classes that they have been corresponding on a regular basis. I think I heard from a couple of those people, but I haven't really received a full email list. It was the people who were in Rick Neal's class. Does that ring a bell with anybody here being in that class? I can't remember. I have to go back and check and see. Somebody had offered to contact Rick, who had been sort of like everything else appointed to take care of the email directory for their group. So I'll have to track them down and see who it was that has that list of other contacts. The other thing that occurred to me too, and this gets, I think, who was it? Dave, you said, is it Father Tom Page?
Page, yes.
So
Tom was in my class. He is now the vicar of priests. He contacted Terry Stewart. Terry apparently is going to be out of town for some extended period of time. Anyway, they were going to approach the diocese together.
You know, okay. you asked me for a list, and it just occurred to me that the people that attended the reunion in 2018 are on Bill's list, the master list, because that was the basis for setting up that list with Bill. Mm-hmm. So the only advantage you would have is to know that they actually attended the reunion, and you could maybe hit on them a little more, promote it a little more with them.
Right. And unfortunately, some of those people have passed away since that the reunion.
Oh, very true. Yeah.
Or have emails turned out to have been changed, and so we lost track of people. But the thing that occurred to me is, if Father Page could, and I think it was Terry Stewart, if somehow the two of them could contact the other priests in the diocese, that would really, I think, really kind of nail down. For example, we haven't heard from Father Ancona. We know he's around. And by the way, a little footnote there, I see that he was the editor of the Recorder in the mid-50s. So I think with some of the priests that we haven't been in touch with and don't have any email addresses for, my thought was getting people like Terry Stewart and Father Page and I know who it was. Is it Monsignor Henkiewicz?
Right, Ed Henkiewicz.
Right, he is now on our email directory list. So, I mean, we have people whose experience at the seminary sort of goes into those years of the 50s, especially, that would be, and others who are from other places that didn't necessarily go to the seminary, but I don't know, I sort of feel like they're certainly more than welcome to attend. Plus, I mean, we got a lot of retirees that are out there somewhere, some of whom are listed in the diocesan website, and some aren't. So that would be another source of contacts. And I like Norb's idea of getting in touch, especially with the Lansing diocese, and probably Gaylord.
Gaylord was once part of the Diocese of Grand Rapids, so there could be a number of people in the Diocese of Gaylord.
Oh, sure. The Saginaw Diocese too.
Yeah.
Mizzou.
Oh.
I mean, I want to repeat what I said. If you ask the communication person in the diocese to send this to the priests and then ask them to put it in a bulletin, that's how you're going to find the guys who are at the seminary that aren't priests. Those are the ones we're missing. Because we probably, as you said, I mean, you can contact Gus and you can contact Terry and those guys, but and sure, there's a camaraderie there, as you well know, but there's also a lot of lay people out there that don't have
Norb, this is Frank. Isn't there a bit of a dilemma if we reserve a room for maybe 100 and 150 show up? How do we accommodate them?
Well, that's why you have registration, of course, that we talked about before. And that's one of the sales pitches that you can do in the memo. Space is limited.
Okay, okay, good point. So therefore, we really need to pick a date and a place today, I think.
Going back to the original question, yes, I would say reserve the date, September 22.
I've got a,
okay.
Norb, you had something, I'll go ahead, Norb, if you were going to say something.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Regarding space, if whichever priest is able to reserve the room, they could reserve room A, B, and C, and that's the largest room there is. A, B, and C can be divided into A and B, C, so it can be cut in half, and then it can be cut into, one of the rooms can be cut in half again. But if we get room A, B, and C, that's going to accommodate 200 some people, 250 people
so
at least.
That's plenty of space.
If we get that good rate that we could be paying for it, if Father Page comes through, we might as well request room A, B, C.
Okay.
Good idea. And if we don't need all that room, we can use the other room for bringing archives up for display.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's all, they have movable walls in the room, so they can divide the room up with the movable walls. If we just request A, B, and C, we've got no walls, just a very large room.
Good idea.
Would you be director for the day, Tom?
I think I'm busy.
I have two things. One is that you're talking about priests in the diocese. And last time when we were at St. Peter and Paul, there was his name Father Vinovich, or he was one of the instructors there. Don't forget him. The other one's kind of a technical question, but if you charge a fee for, or you charge a rate or whatever for beer or drinks or that, do you have to have a liquor license?
No.
Yes.
Well, I think that's the rub. I don't think that you can serve alcohol, and maybe Tom, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you can serve it, but there's an additional fee. You've got to get a bond or insurance coverage or something like that, and that's usually a pretty good chunk of money.
I don't remember that being at St. Peter and Paul. As I mentioned, it was drinks were included with the $30 per person.
But it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't alcoholic drinks, Norb.
Yeah,
it was.
I had a glass of wine.
Okay.
Well, at the diocese, you get charged extra. You've got to have the bond or something like that, insurance, whatever it is. You got to pay for that at the diocesan center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think we could live without alcohol during that meet?
I think we could. We could always meet afterwards if we wanted. Imbibe.
That's a good question, though. It'd be good to find that out.
We'll do that. We'll check into that.
Yeah, I had looked on the website just the other day, and I looked at that whole issue of alcoholic beverages. My first gut reaction was it wasn't terribly expensive for what they were saying, but maybe there's like some other things in there that I missed. But
things could have changed since I was there, but I guess, yeah, if somebody can investigate, that would be the thing to do.
Right. And then if we can't have alcoholic beverages without an exorbitant fee, maybe consider going back to St. Peter and Paul. The facilities manager is Dennis Vinovich. and I worked with him as well as Father Dennis. And he was, in fact, I had the schedule for last year with him and the caterer ready to go. So I would suggest give him a call and see what he says, see if you can arrange. If this doesn't work out, the Chancery. I do like the Chancery as the first option.
I do too.
Hey Dave, do you think parking will be a problem because Central will be in session at that time?
Yeah, Jim, I think there's enough parking around that I know that they have several levels of the parking garage in back, and then all of the parking out in front. But yeah, if we're bringing 100 people in, I'll ask Chris about that as well.
It will be, parking could be challenging because school would be in session and Catholic Central has about half of the upper part of the 2-story ramp. The part of the ramp is for employees, the upper part, employees or guests. The lower part of the ramp is for employees, guests, but it is limited. There is parking on side streets. It just depends, I guess, on what else is going on as to how the parking might be. Parking might be a little challenging, but if you're able to talk to Chris Castano about that, she could probably fill you in better. Things may have changed since I was there doing that.
Okay.
Just for my edification, is this a new building? Is it next to the cathedral or the high school or where?
It's a remodeled building. It goes way back. Originally, it was a car dealership. Bishop Hurley purchased the building and it was completely remodeled. And there's an area, it's next to Catholic Central, the cathedral. St. Andrew's School has been demolished. The Catholic Central gym is there, but the whole big area is referred to as Cathedral Square.
Oh, okay.
So that's, if you go on a Google map and you do, aerial view, you can kind of see it. Plus you can see a lot of it from street view on Google.
Okay, thank you.
So have we got a date? Are we talking September 23rd? Does anybody have an objection to that date?
No objection.
That's the original date you mentioned, right?
Well, actually, we originally thought of September the 9th, but then...
No, I don't mean that. I mean tonight.
Yeah, tonight. We had 9/15.
Okay.
September 15th is gone, according to Dave, right?
Because the reason I asked is I thought you said the 22nd, but it's just 23rd.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what confused me. You're right, Norb.
Is it the 23rd, Dave, or 22nd?
Yes, the 23rd, a Thursday.
The 23rd is a Thursday.
Yeah.
And we're talking noon to 4, somewhere around in there.
Because I'm going to have to make a reservation. I'm going to stay in a hotel in Grand Rapids. It's almost a 5-hour drive from Chicago, from where I live in the north side of the city, to Grand Rapids.
I think, Dave, you mentioned to me when we talked that there were several quality hotels right nearby, since it's near the Ford Library and as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
A Marriott. Yeah.
I'm sure I could just go online and find a hotel that I've got discount points.
It's 8 o'clock.
Okay. Is that the Zoom person telling us the time?
Oh, it's my computer.
Oh.
Oh, well, that's a signal for me to go. I want to get going pretty soon, so I'm going to leave you soon. But this is good. Good conversation. Keep it up. I look forward to being there.
Thanks for the input. A lot of great ideas, Norb.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Norb.
Take care, Norb.
I have a general question. Do we want 150 people, or would we like to keep it below 100? I'm not concerned either way, but I just thought somebody might object to too large a group. No. I don't know how we would keep it below if we have a lot of interest in people. It gets publicized, and a lot of people say yes, they want to come. And we are inviting current priests too, right? It's not just seminarians who didn't become priests. Yes. We're also including priests in this invitation.
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking. Well, I'm looking forward to this event.
It started out as a picnic for half a dozen or a dozen people, and
it's morphed into
right. Yeah.
What would you have? I do have a question though. And what would you have as a theme? I think you ought to kind of because when you put it out, you know, to the other people, inviting them, it would seem like you'd want to have some type of a theme so that they, you know, the reunion of something or whatever it might be. But I would suggest that. So you have a tag on it, and then Dave has a reason for asking for the room too.
Reunion necktie is optional.
Well, unless there was a wedding, I think so. Yeah. What, you know, everybody wear a Roman collar. I mean,
right.
You know, but
a sweater and a necktie.
Yeah.
No, see, that's why I said option. That would be optional.
Yeah. Well, that could be tongue in cheek, but I just think it would be helpful so you have a kind of a rally point that people could identify with. You know, like if you see somebody's name like Bill Yagerlener, I'm not trying to, you know, like, yeah, I like Bill, I always have, but I mean, maybe some people don't know who Bill was or has been or is. So that's why I was just thinking that, and I think to whatever's in the title, something to identify with St. Joe Seminary.
I think St. Joe Seminary should be in the title, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I mean, you know, just say St. Joe Seminary reunion or something all years, so that
it could be 21 field day.
A field day, the red and the blue.
Blue and gold day, yeah.
An indoor field day.
Need somebody to play the drum to lead it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea if somehow we could tie in with the fact that there's so much of the seminary's history right there. I haven't been there to see the chapel windows. Just has, and some of the photos I was able to pick out just by scanning around, looking at some of the other pictures there. I look at some of those, like the chapel windows, and say, I kind of remember that, but I don't know for sure. And of course, we'd be right next door to all of the archives. So if we could come up with some sort of tagline that incorporates all of that, that would really be helpful. By the way, one thing that occurred to me, I was meant to ask this, and this, Jim Blanchard, you probably know the answer to that. When I posted those photos that Angela sent along, there were two sort of circular windows that were just listed as chapel windows. And I was trying to remember where in the chapel those were. Do you have any idea, or anybody who saw those pictures have any idea where those two circular windows were?
One of the circular windows, as I recall, was like a skylight. It was above the sanctuary, I think.
Ah, okay.
So I'm just curious, because if I saw a window, I would have no idea that it was from the seminary, to be honest with you. I couldn't even describe it. But is that on the newer side that these windows are, or are they on the original chapel, or are they both? Just curious.
The windows.
The original chapel.
Yeah, original chapel.
Original chapel.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe so, yeah.
I mean, I remember when they used to sing, and sometimes they'd have these songs, we'd be singing, and they'd have one side singing one hymn and the other side singing another. And that was kind of interesting.
That kind of brings up another question I never thought of. I don't recall what kind of windows there were in what was that called? The senior chapel or something like that? Does anybody recall anything?
They were just tinted frosted glass.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean,
were.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, they were? Okay, good.
It was the modern wing, so that it couldn't have anything too ancient in there,
Right.
They were also cheap.
Yeah.
That's true, but
You know, this is where somebody with some history.
Well, I would recommend that for a title, you keep it simple. But you know, something like St. Joe's Seminary all-year reunion and 2021.
Yes.
Well, you're all time. I like your idea, Paul.
Yeah.
How are we going to select a caterer, and what kind of food? Who's going to do all that kind of stuff?
That's Frank's committee, and he's going to delegate.
Subcommittee, all right.
Oh, Pete, you'll be on it with me, won't you, Pete?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we heard at some point, it was, you know, maybe not go with the heavy meal, just keep it light, something that you can sort of eat and mingle. And so it's up to you guys, whatever you'd like.
I think it should be light. I agree with that concept.
I'm in favor of that.
I agree.
We're all, at least I'll speak for myself. I don't need a heavy meal.
I think that when you do it, that I agree, but I think you might want to emphasize the social part of it to some extent. You know, the history and the social part, and that's reason for people they'd be motivated to come, I believe. So something that would kind of, you know, communicate that it's kind of.
How about if we put grease bags on the menu?
Yeah.
That'll motivate people.
I have a question for those who attended the 2018. What was the identifying, was there a badge on each person? Was there some kind of...
They had name tags or somehow, I believe.
Were they on the shoulder? Were they around the neck?
No, they would just, you know, like if you were to go to a conference or something.
Okay. You just put your name and the class date year on it that you, last year you were in the seminary, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Because I'll probably know most of those of us who finished the 1966 year just by the name, but so many of who attend. Dave, I don't think I ever met you before. Dave Sipka, I've never met you before. And what were the years you were there?
Actually, we have.
We have?
Frank, you did an inspection of an early childhood program for, I think, when I was superintendent of either Montague or Muskegon.
Oh, Muskegon, Michigan.
School District.
Was it Muskegon? Yeah, I was a federal Head Start monitor. Led a team to the Muskegon program, so we did meet. But that was after the fact. We didn't meet in the seminary.
That's
right. Have a name tag, Frank, so you didn't know.
Yeah.
I do remember Montague as one of the sites that we were inspecting.
I think Dave came the fall after we left. Didn't you, 66?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And did I hear correctly that seminary stopped being a 6-year institution at some point in the late 60s? There was no longer...
Christopher House. Christopher House opened up. They purchased a beautiful place in East Grand Rapids.
Okay.
It was the home of, I forget the guy's name, Thomas. And he had a grocery store that he sold to Mr. Kroger. And so this was a beautiful mansion near the Aquinas campus. And so Bishop Rose, Father Rose, Father Paul Johnson were the first rectors of Christopher House. So it was about 1969 was the first year that a class stayed there.
Okay. So
it was a holy fraternity.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Dick Host was also, Father Dick was rector there for a while.
Yeah, Father Host was there for a while. I don't remember whether he was rector or not.
Yeah. But... No, he was vocations director.
Okay.
For a number of years. Yeah.
Well, the bishop's house was
Father Mike Danner was there as well.
The bishop's house was not too far
Yeah.
there.
The bishop's house was across. Yeah. Across from East Grand Rapids High School.
I used to live on the other side of that. I walked by Aquinas College every day when I went to school.
So just to summarize, Dave, what's on your plate for before our next call? You're supposed to contact the diocesan. You have a couple of things on your plate, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Could you repeat them?
I'll get in touch with Chris Castano. We'll nail down September 23rd.
Okay, good.
And then we will secure room ABC. We'll check into what kind of a bond is necessary to serve at least wine and beer. And then we'll also ask about parking and whether that will be problematic.
Okay.
And was
That's
the fee already
four things on your plate?
Was the fee waived yet?
Pete, I'm pretty sure that it is. Once Father Tom asked, Chris had assured me that the chief financial officer, Mike Lown, for the diocese would waive the fee.
I think Frank was going to cover that anyway, but that's okay. Good.
I had a suggestion that maybe Jim Blanchard, you might want to get involved with this. Let me start out by saying one of the issues of the recorder that you sent me had photos of all the year's students in one, whatever year it was, 57, 50, somewhere around in there. And that was just incredible to see first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth year students with pictures, individual like group pictures of them. And I started going through that. And, pardon?
Photo quality was pretty poor.
Right, yeah. Right, but the names were there underneath it. And I found that very, very interesting because for several sessions now, we've talked about how nice it would be if we could somehow jog our memories about who were in our starting class. And we talked, so my thought was, Jim, it seems like if, especially those copies of the recorder that might have some of those old group photos in them, and also copies of, now I lost track of what the name of that thing was that was published every year that had the previous year's students in it.
The bulletin? No.
Right.
Well, I thought it was the rule book or something. Didn't they have everybody's name in the rule book?
No, it wasn't the rule book. It was
something like that.
Yeah, I know.
It was the bulletin.
The bulletin, right.
Yes.
So that would be really cool if we could somehow, locate some of those out there, and either we somehow, I don't know if you want to put them on display or make some copies of, especially the rosters that were in there. That was really fascinating for the one copy that somebody in the group sent over to me, and I put it up on the website. It was really our group, the graduating class of 1966 was listed first, and then the other fifth, fourth, third, 2, 1 all of those were listed, except that, and I think we discussed this, many of the students who were in like the early months of their year didn't make or left already by the time that bulletin came out. And so it's a near complete list of people who were enrolled at any given time in the seminary's history. So if somehow we could get some of those, or at least the roster pages, that would really be cool.
Bill, I'm not sure that there were group photos in the recorder each year. Angela has a number of recorders in the archives, so I can check with her to see those archives, and maybe we can get those scanned and we can get those up on the website as well. But
right.
I'll have to touch base with her. She also has some bulletins. I don't think she has a complete listing of the bulletins, but I can see what she does have, and then maybe we can get scans of those as well, so that those can be published in advance.
Right. And
So
for those who were not here in the group when we first were introducing ourselves, when the first guys checked in, Jim had sent me about 4 or 5 years worth of or copies of the recorder from the mid 50s to
56, I think I sent.
Yeah. And those were fascinating because of the fact that there were so many, even though the quality of the photos wasn't all that great, to actually see some of the faces as they were in those particular years, and some of the activities that were recorded in the recorder were just, I'd completely forgotten about a lot of those things. Those were just kind of fascinating to look at. They presented a good snapshot of what we remember about life in the seminary in the in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the Bob Lazinski was passed, had a ton of pictures. He had a whole collection of pictures, and I don't know if his wife Martha has them or not. I can try and give her a call.
That would be great.
He's got all the indoor pictures of St. Joe's. Father Zudema was in those pictures. They're all, I'll call and see if I can get hold of her.
Great. That would be. And I see that, I think he was an editor of the recorder at one point, or assistant editor or something like that. Does anybody recall that?
He was, I think, except for Denny, that he was a little ahead of us, but he was a man of a lot of energy and a lot of creative talent. Even after he left the seminary, he was still associated with friends of his that became priests and worked in the music area. His father had was a pharmacist, and he was on Diamond in Michigan, where he had his pharmacy. It was right almost next door to where my grandfather used to live. So, but he was once you met him, you'd never forget. He was so energetic and positive, and he just wanted he'd get you inspired to sing. Would you agree, Denny?
I grew up with Bob. I grew up with Bob in that area. That drugstore was our hangout.
Okay.
Neighborhood.
Well, my grandfather lived on the house on the hill there, right down the street. Right across there. There was a gas station, and then my grandfather's house.
Hey, Bill.
I'll be there.
Are we going to try to get a count by the time of our next meeting in early August? I think we should.
Yeah, it'll be a tentative count. It won't be a final count, I'm sure.
Right, but we should try to get the best we can, I think. Whether we're talking about 35 of us or 135. Because for the caterer is going to need to know some idea too, right. I think.
Let me ask you this question. Is it worthwhile, and would people likely be able to check into like a poll kind of thing that I put together, where I ask them, yes, I'm coming, or no, I'm not able to attend, or there were some that's indicated that another choice was may attend, not sure, that kind of thing. Do you think it's worth, I mean, I can just resurrect that survey and repost it. Is that useful in the process? Or the thing is, or I could say, get in touch with the committee by contacting whoever on the committee wants to be contacted.
Bill, I think you're right. I think I think that what you're really trying to do is get a sense of how many people you think will show up. You know, maybe you'll say, we're looking into this and would you be interested in, you know, say it's going to be in September or something like that. And based on that, you could help Dave give more, a better idea of how to reserve the rooms. Although I think that based on Tom's experience that he's correct, and that, you know, you could, I think it'd be helpful to plan better, even to make, you know, working with the caterers, this is going to be, you know, we might need about 70 meals or whatever number you want. So I think that's a good idea. And I think Pete makes up a good point.
I think
the way you did it, Bill, I thought that was good. Yeah, the survey or whatever you had, the checklist that you sent us, and they just sent them right back to you, right? They just reply.
It reply, the way I've set up those things is they reply to the St. Joe memories list, and then it's also forwarded on to me. And I can also adjust that so that those replies are sent directly to whoever on the committee would want to receive them, just so that I'm not kind of in the middle of all these things. Or I can send it to everybody on the committee. It's up to you guys to give me some direction here.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the survey right now, and what you said in that one was you can fill out the survey or you can reply to St. Joe's memories.
Okay.
And I think that would work. You know, allowing both of those would work very well, because I'm in contact with about a dozen, well, loose contact with about a dozen of people from the 73, 74, 75 years. And I could just forward this link on to them and say, hey, this is what's going on.
That's all good. We need to look at, we are 2 months out, and we're meeting once between now and the event.
Twice actually.
This
August 2nd and September the 6th. August 2nd is the next Monday, first Monday. And September the 6th is the first Monday in September.
Okay. But what I'm coming about to, between now and the event, no, we're 2.5 months. We're less than 2.5 months.
Less than 2.5 months.
And communication to the people that we want to reach invitations to, people make plans a month ahead, a month and a half ahead, that I don't know how to phrase this, but I want to suggest that, Bill, you send out this survey, but put a little.
We need a response by August the 1st.
Well, no, put some teasers in it that this event is going to happen. And if you'd like to be a part, if you are interested in being a part, and that's not the way to say it, but please express your interest in the survey so that we can plan for capacity and so forth.
Yeah, time tight.
Bill, one thing, I have a question to help, may help us all. Do you have access to SurveyMonkey?
I haven't used it.
Oh, okay.
Recently, but.
Well, I was just thinking it would give you a sense of numbers that you, like you said, you could send it to the other committee members, and it gives you instant feedback. So, and if people had questions or anything, they could add those on, and you could get a sense of people's thinking too. I don't know, for what it's worth.
Right.
I think Paul's got a good idea to make it, because I think by doing what Paul says, it makes it more of a certainty that something like this is going to happen, and I think that's that's a good way. In other words, you're giving it more confidence than just throwing a dart out and see if it works.
Oh yeah, I think it's got to be a definite. We are going to have reunion September 23, noon to 4. Where it's going to be at, there will be a light luncheon provided at a cost. We don't know the cost yet, but you know, and we do need to know the attendance and say, yeah, please respond and let us know if you're going to attend. But if, you know, we'd like a response by August 1st if they can, but as far as I'm concerned, you know, you've got quite a long list that you're sending out every month now, Bill. Yeah. That's quite a big list. And to me, that's as big a list as we need. If we can put on there, if they know of any other seminarians that are not on the list, you know, please contact them themselves and invite them and get them to respond also. I don't think we got to really sell ourselves. I mean, if people want to see old classmates, yes, they're going to come. We don't have, if we have to convince them, I don't want them to come anyway. You know, really.
Sure.
We're not trying to, you know, I want to see you guys in person, and that's why I want to go. I don't, whatever.
I think one thing that you may, I agree, but I think one thing that you should put in there is that COVID restrictions will be honored or whatever. So make it clear, because people may have questions on that, and I think that you want to at least be aggressive up front. It goes to Dave that was the issue of COVID restrictions discussed with
No, at this point there are no restrictions.
That's right. Well, I think you ought to say something about that, just so that because there will be people that will have questions on that, I believe.
Produce your passport.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring your card.
And 220. That's God's telephone number, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, Bill, I think if you just punch up the email with, you know, with a couple of those teasers, hey, remember this? There'll be copies available. Remember this? Would you like to see some of these things? You know, and just to give them the idea that there's more than just our ugly pusses that they could see.
And Bill, do we know the next meeting? Is it always the first Monday of the month?
That's what we've been doing,
okay,
which
so
brings up a question.
Not Labor Day, probably.
No, it's August the 2nd I'm talking about. I think is a Monday. Yeah, isn't it correct?
September 2nd.
Now, what about September?
Oh.
Do we want to?
How about
September 2nd's a Thursday.
No, but it's September 2nd, but we're trying to avoid Labor Day, which is probably September the 6th.
Monday.
Yeah.
And then September 6th is a Monday.
Yeah, that's Labor Day.
Yeah.
That's Labor Day. So
want to do it on the 7th?
Or do it
earlier.
How
about if we do August 30th?
Oh.
That way, if we have any last minute preparations,
we still have
or changes that we need to make, we still have a little time.
4 weeks.
Oh, good call.
That's not a bad idea.
August 2nd and August 30th were the next two meetings. Is that what the consensus is?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
All right, that's easy enough to do. I don't know. By the way, Frank Fallon had sent a message to me and was asking whether there were other topics that we were going to talk about. We never got around to that section in there, or even, you know, people were offered the option of saying if there was anything to bring up. I know that whole questions about the Conference of Bishops and the whole issue of what they were going to be saying about politics and so on. We never got around to discussing that. Seems like there's still a lot of interest in. So I guess what I'm saying is let's not leave. I think we can maybe squeeze in some of these other things in addition to the lunch. Up to you guys.
Well, I'd like to commend Pete's started that whole chain of emails questioning the Pete Garthe, the bishop, what his stance was, and not getting a response. Really, it sounded like.
It's funny, the editorial in the National Catholic Reporter, after I sent that out, the editor had her whole page was about people are demanding to know how their bishops voted. They want to know.
They really was a story about that, huh?
You know, yeah, and that it was an anonymous vote. I guess it was a Zoom meeting by the bishops, and they claim they don't have a record of how everybody voted. And she said,
I wondered about that. So there's no public record of how each bishop voted, although the number is known. Wasn't it like 155 versus 55 or something?
She said, just ask your bishop. Well, I asked my bishop. I haven't heard a response yet.
Yeah, along those lines, I started to watch like the YouTube version of the conference minutes or whatever that was. And my God, they had like a 3-hour YouTube of, and I just kind of gave up on it after a couple of minutes because I thought, am I going to sit through this whole thing and scan through to see what if they ever come up with the bishops from the Detroit area? That was kind of frustrating to me.
I watched much of that. It was very enlightening about how unenlightened most of these men are, and the bubble that they're in. You know, they're all brothers, and you know the bishops are a club, and they are a special club, and they know that they are a special club. Probably 2/3 of them have been groomed to be bishops from the time they studied in Rome when they went to Rome for theology. You know, it's the entity that we're doing, that we concerned Catholic, we happen to be men, but our wives are in it with us, for those of us who have wives. You know, it was boring to watch. You know, kept saying, can I keep going? You know, maybe there'll be someone that, and you do have people who show up that you read about, and you know, you've never seen them say anything, and most of those people that you know are in my plus category, no, were reflected what I expected them to be doing, but it was an education, and enough said.
I just had sort of a technical question in there. I'd never really paid attention to the actual makeup of the U.S. Conference of Bishops. Does that include all of the bishops, or is that one per diocese? Can anybody enlighten me on that?
I will take a swing at it. It does include all the bishops. They are in different groupings, depending on this, that, and something else. When it comes to voting, there is something in the current issue of NCR that addresses some of this. And it might be in Heidi Schlump's editorial. When it comes to voting, only bishops who are in charge of a diocese vote. Auxiliaries do not vote. So there's one vote per diocese in that context, but it's the bishop that makes the vote. It's not the diocese. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, right, exactly. That's exactly what I wasn't clear on.
So
but anyway,
has the Grand Rapids Bishop said anything in the either a bulletin or whatever his communication device is, Pete?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Maybe you can ask him on September 23rd, Frank.
Okay, I'll try. He'll probably point out that I still owe them money. I never paid for my last 2 years. I got a bill from them when I left the seminary for $2,000, and I've not paid the bill yet. So I might get, no, I won't. They've forgotten, I'm sure. They've forgotten.
Inflation is going to make it much more than that, I'm sure.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, but
that's true. The bill is probably doubled, or
charging interest.
It did say on the bill. It said at the bottom of the bill. It said whenever you're able to pay.
Well, you'd rather owe them than chip them out of it.
Yeah, in my mind at the point when I left the seminary, I'll just owe this to them for a long time.
They'll get you in the end.
They probably will.
Be on your credit report.
Probably, no, it won't. I think it's been forgotten.
Hey,
okay,
Bill,
so
one thing you might mention in your next email that goes out to the group, the large group, is mention that if they have any old issues of the recorder or annual bulletins, if they could bring those to give to Angela for the archives, because I know she's looking to kind of fill in gaps where she doesn't have those. And for most of us, I mean, they're probably going to go out to trash unless we give them to Dave or something, so that
that's a good point.
On to Angela. Because a lot of those that I sent to you today were from Father Mike Danner, and he was worried that if something happened to him that they just go out to trash. So he wanted to make sure that they at least got to the archives. And one of the most interesting things that I didn't mention to you was that he gave me the old seminary seal to take to the archives.
Ooh.
The thing is about pounds. It's a more than a paperweight.
Sell it on eBay.
Well, anyways, if you could put in the plug for people to bring those, I'm sure Angela would be very pleased.
Right, and I also will. I see Dave is holding up a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah. I told Jim I have a container full of this stuff. I have probably 10 or 12 recorders, and eventually we created our own yearbook called the Beckoner. So it was just like a regular yearbook you'd find in a high school. Then Prayers and Devotions. Remember this book?
Right.
I think that's on the website, Dave.
Cool.
I was also going to include of things to bring, those missing class photos that we have, little skips in there that we still haven't.
Pfizer.
Yeah, and maybe we can work with Angela to have her ready to scan, or I don't know. By the way, I almost forgot to mention this. Norb suggested that we do something to acknowledge Angela and how valuable she's been to our efforts over the past couple of years. And that kind of brought me up to the other thing. I think Father Phil Slowinski is now the chief archivist there. Is that,
no,
did he take?
He's still assistant archivist. He's still listed as assistant archivist.
Yeah.
I remember him, he was in the class a couple of years behind us, as I recall it. His name is just sort of stuck in my head for the longest time. But anyway, I think as part of the program there, we ought to acknowledge the invaluable help that we've all received from the folks there at the archives. I mean, we've been people like Jim Blanchard's been able to track down a lot of these things, and but certainly Angela has really, and she seems to be like on the lookout now. When she spots stuff that seems to be of interest to us, she'll send it either to Jim or to me. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I did have one other question for Jim Blanchard. My brother still lives in Muskegon, and I was telling him about that you had contact. You lived in North Muskegon? Is that?
North Shores.
North Shores? Oh, okay. And what parish did you go to then? St. Francis de Sales?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, he might recognize you. He was, and our family was at St. Francis de Sales in the last couple of years that I was living in the Muskegon area. I remember, and even though I take that back. When I would go up there to visit the family for a number of years, when my mother was alive, she went over to St. Francis. I recall that, and he might remember your name as well. He was in the seminary in 1965. He spent the first couple of months there. He left at the Thanksgiving break. And he's now, I think he goes to Sacred Heart. I think his family is now more connected with Sacred Heart than with St. Francis. So anyway, just for...
Your brother would have left before I attended and before Dave attended, because didn't you start in 66?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I got some things to include in my next announcement. And it will focus on the fact that we are, here's what we need to hear from you. For anybody who is planning on attending, we need to hear from you ASAP, certainly by, shall we say, August 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
That gives them 3 weeks, or 3 weeks almost.
Right, and either go online and fill this out. Either I'll check into SurveyMonkey or the website one, or by contacting the committee. How? Is there somebody whose name we want to be responsible for the central contact point? I guess my thought was some people might not be able to or feel comfortable filling out online surveys. Just a thought. Need your input on that.
Well, the bishops don't tell you who they vote for, so I can understand that.
Bill, why don't you include a couple of email addresses like Frank's and Pete's, and folks.
Who else wants to be on this committee with Pete and I? Anybody else want to join us? We're just going to be an ad hoc committee. We're not going to be meeting every week. Or Paul, you want to join us, Paul?
I'm overcommitted as it is.
You're overcommitted. Okay. Albert, you want to be part of this committee? I'm asking people that I know. That's probably my fault.
I suppose so. Yes, I'm new to Michigan, but I know it well.
Okay. Anybody else? Dick?
And Frank, give me a call after the meeting. Okay, Frank.
Okay, sure.
I can't do anything. I can't do anything on the ground in Grand Rapids because I'm in the Detroit area, but I would be willing to work on the survey if it's through survey.
It's really an ad hoc committee, and I'm loosely just trying to figure out what our committee responsibilities are going to be. Bill, you're going to be in charge of, I think, of sending out this survey, right?
Correct. Right.
Request. Is it going to supplant the one that's already out there? Is it going to be a brand new survey?
Yes, it will be a brand new survey updated with where we are now.
Okay.
And it'll say we've had some big changes based on what your early response. We've now honed it down to this. So even if you responded earlier, we're asking you to respond again.
Okay.
And I guess the thinking here is, we won't be able to say what the cost is. We're going to have to get another message out about the cost and how to make the payments. And I'm sorry, I got distracted for 1 second or a couple minutes in there when we were talking about how the checks should be made out or who's going to handle the payments. Did I miss something in there?
We didn't really agree on how that was going to take place.
Yeah, we did.
We're not ready to talk about that.
Okay. So I'll include that details on payment.
Maybe that could be a topic for the August 2nd Zoom meeting.
Right.
I do say something like, we hope you can make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds good.
I think, Bill, just tell them for now there will be a light lunch catered in, and we'll get the cost to them at a later point.
Right. I think you're right, Pete. And then we'll figure out how we'll collect the money. I think it's a good idea.
Right. That brought up just one other general question. I discovered after I sent out the first update that at least one person's email system wouldn't handle it because it was too big. It had too many, probably the photos in it. And that's why I sent out the second one, which was a digital version only. So did everybody in this group, did they get that first one with all the photos in it?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, might have been that one person's email system that had the limit.
They probably have too small of a baud rate in that, or that's been restricted. That's the newer computers shouldn't have that problem. So.
Okay, all right. I guess I'll just send the photo edition out. I guess I'm discovering that sometimes it's my system, which is Comcast, that won't send out things that have large photos in them. It won't get out of my network. And then on the other side of things, some people's incoming email systems limit the size of the incoming. So as long as my system will send it, I'll continue to send it out that way. If not, I may have to cut down some. This time it had like 5 photos in it, so that was a big factor in it. So, Okay, anything else? And I'll say other topics to be determined based on input from whoever is going to be attending. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Sure.
All right, great. I'm glad we picked up a couple people that I hadn't recognized. Is it Terry?
Yes.
Terry, okay. And I forgot your first name, LaFave. Dennis, okay. Yeah. And then we heard for the first time from Frank Fallon, so that was pretty good. I'm going to track down to that person who knew Rick O'Neill in his class. I'll see if I can go back and look at some of the Zoom sessions to see who it was that said they were going to ask Rick to get in touch with me and provide his email list. Okay.
Bill?
Yeah.
If you have Rick's email, send it to me and I'll try to get a hold of him. He lives in Ann Arbor, so I can tell him that you're trying to get a hold of him or something.
Right. Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Right.
Okay.
Albert, I have one quick question. Albert, I'll call you after the Zoom call is over. Is that what you requested? Okay, I'll give you a call.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, guys, this was good again. Let's look forward to our next couple meetings and a great reunion. I'm getting really excited about that.
I am too.
It was a good meeting. Thank you, Bill, and all
yes.
out there. Yeah.
Thank you,
guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Take care.
All right, great. We'll see you guys.
All right.
Bye,
bye everyone.
Bye. Nice seeing you.